fast forward how I even went this direction was, it was 2014, 2015 when it was like, I'm a fairly well-known barber in Chicago, Chicagoland area. Great clientele, businesses, good, nice flow, but it was just certain things that I just accepted it is what it was. Little to no vacations at all. In the chair slaving. Wife always complaining that I come home late. But for me, it's like, I know what my end of the year financial goal is, and I break it up by week, by day, by client. So to kind of pace myself, not trying to pack everybody in on the Saturday. Let me spread it out through the week so I'm not all over the place. But little room to do anything else that I wanted to do in life. And I just got to a place where I just accepted that's what it was. That's the card that I was dealt. Welcome to the BarberSHED podcast, where we talk about how to creatively and strategically build a profitable business that clients brag about. Hi, I'm your host, Michael Banks, and in today's episode, we're talking to author and speaker Robert H. Marshall Jr. about unresolved trauma and how it can affect the way that we deal with our clients and our customers. Make sure you listen all the way to the end because Robert gives us some practical action steps to immediately start the journey of wholeness. If you or anybody else that you know likes content like this, please take time to share it, write a message, let us know how we're doing. Enjoy the episode. These are the conversations that I have with myself. This is my thought process when I'm making adjustments in my own business behind the chair. Yeah. I could care less about another clipper. I can care less about another blade if that doesn't help me to better serve the people in my chair. Yeah. And if I am going to help other barbers, help other hairstylists, then I want to have the conversations that I think are most effective. Yeah. The issues of my childhood trauma, I recently had an opportunity to talk with a therapist. Yeah. And I never realized that was the cheat code that I was missing.
I like how you said that, a cheat code.
Oh my gosh, yeah. $150, $175, and they're legally binded. I can say whatever
I need to say, and they can't say a word. My secrets are safe.
And I feel so much lighter.
Yeah.
I feel so much better.
Yeah.
Issues that I'm going through with right now, I'm responding better than what I realized that it's like. Now it's like that's a cheat code right now. So now I want to share that with everybody else. But I don't really have the answers. And it was just so happened that when I made the decision, you know what? I'm going to commit myself to doing 25 episodes and just take it from there. Yeah. And if I'm going to do these 25 episodes, I'm going to talk about the things that I think would help barbers and hairstylists, whether they want it or not. Yeah. I'm going to just put it out there and see what it does. What is the one thing that held me back? And the first thing that I had written down was unresolved childhood issues. And then I went on social media and I seen a post about March 25th at the Oak Park, what was going on at the library in Oak Park. I was like, I never heard this guy. Then I check you out and I realized we got mutual friends here and there. And then I reached out to one of my past friends. He's like, yeah, man, great dude.
Wow.
I was like, well, let me try to figure out what you're supposed to say when you email. Okay, let me figure out this message. Let me just send it and see what you say. So my first question to kind of start this off is, when you saw the message come in, why did you say yes?
Why did I say yes? I said yes because, number one, there's a couple technical things. I always look and respond to excellence. Whenever I see that, and this is just practical, just nothing deep. It is deep, but not. I look for excellence. I look for people who are as committed to their craft as I am, who have invested as much as I have. and who are serious about the work that they're doing, and you can tell that by what they put out, the quality of what they put out. And when I saw your podcast, I think like, the algorithm. I think I had already seen some of your stuff beforehand. I think you had one of my friends, Ryan, on here, and so Ryan is a good friend of mine. And so I saw some of the stuff, and I was like, oh, okay. I was actually surprised. I was like, oh, this is dope. And I already saw the excellence. I'm like, okay, yeah, I can do this. But then I also saw some of the things you were talking about. And at first I was like, well, he's a barber. And then I was like, you know what? This fits because my work stems around empowering men from all walks of life, and especially men in urban communities, men in urban communities around the world. And the one place that we all go to, that we all have in common, is the barbershop.
Yeah.
It's our barbers who are our therapists, who are our brothers, who are our counselors, who we tell our deepest, darkest secrets through.
Yeah.
Our barbers are the people who, when we're having a horrible day, any black man, a Latino man, white man, don't even matter. They can sit in their barber chair, and when they look at themselves after that finished product, they're a different person, or they have a different outlook on the world. And so I was like, yeah, this fits. This fits the narrative. This fits the mission. This fits the goal. It's aligned, and I will be honored to do it. I'll be honored to do it. And even seeing the way you approached the message that I got, I was like, okay, I'm a writer. So I said, okay, this is intentional. This is intentional. This is not, hey, what's up, bro? And even I respond to that too. I'm very responsive because I don't just do this work in theory. I'm not just someone who posts this. I live this. I eat it. I breathe it. I sleep it 24 hours, 7 days a week, to the point where my wife is like, okay, we're in bed. Can we not talk about male trauma right now? Can we
Right.
not? Because this is just who I am. And so when I got the message, I was honored. I was like, yeah, this is good stuff.
Yeah, that's good. That's good, man. I appreciated you accepting it, and kind of the direction that I would like to go and kind of land on is, I know I have my experience. I have what I've discovered.
Yeah.
But I'm going through a process of peeling back layers of, like, my dad said something to me in October that when he reminded me of the day that he left, because I was standing there like
Yeah.
I'm there, and he reminded me of the day, he said something that triggered a moment that I completely forgot about. I never and it kind of broke me down like a little bit, not as much as it would have, but I think the reason why I was like stuck was because it's like, how many other things in my life has happened that it's completely blocked out of my life.
Yeah.
Like I don't have no memory of it. And then I'm like, how many other people experience the same thing?
Yeah.
So where I kind of want to lead is like, I'm hoping that you have resources, people that you can, by the end of just hearing from you, can say, hey, if you need someone to talk to,
Yeah.
reach out
Yeah.
to here, reach out to me,
Yeah.
read this. Like that's, I don't want to do this in a way where it's just like, here's the answer, because the more I discover, the more I search for answers, the more I see that this isn't like you have a conversation one time and everything
Oh
is
no.
good.
No. This is so, as I shared, the framework for all of the work we do is healing is the journey, wholeness is the destination. I believe that there is a place called wholeness. And I believe every man deserves to reach that place called wholeness.
Yeah.
And how do they get to wholeness? One healing step at a time. Now, here's the thing about that. It's not my job to define what that place looks like. And it's also not my job to define what healing looks like. But my job is to walk alongside them every step of the way, as long as they allow, to help facilitate the journey. to help facilitate the conversation so they realize that they're not walking alone.
Yeah.
So the work that we do with men is really about empowering men to walk and pursue their journey, to start it. Most men, we don't. And historically, most black, brown men, we in urban communities, we just don't. We suffer in silence. And we adopt self-sabotaging behaviors, right? That potentially stop us from reaching our full potential and becoming all who we were created to be. I often say that men who have trauma that they don't deal with, it deals with them. What they don't conquer conquers their children.
Yeah.
And the people who get the short end of the stick are the people that love them. It's kind of like my story. I started my own journey because I had I have three children, but I had two boys first. And I love my children. I know I'm an amazing father, but I love my children. But I realized there was a certain point where I realized I started becoming jealous of them.
Wow.
I was like, man, and it was all I could feel this hate starting to fester in my heart towards my kids that I know that I love.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a minute, like something's wrong.
Yeah.
Something's wrong here. And I realized watching, I started to get jealous of them and even getting to the point of hate because I realized they had the father that I always wanted, but I would never have.
Oh.
And so I had become the father that I always wanted. I had become the supporter, the encourager. I was there for every game. I was there for every part of their life. Not one part of their life. My kids are their daddy's kids all day. If they're sick, I'm there. I cook breakfast, lunch, and dinner for my kids. I am there. And I realized I was mourning the fact that I would never have the relationship with my father that they have the privilege of having with me.
Wow.
And so I was like, yo, you got to do some work.
Yeah.
I realized then, you know what, there's something here that you need to work through. And I realized that when I was in my late 20s, and I said, you know what? I think the part that hurt was I knew that it was too late to even have those types of relationships. And so, like myself, it is these internal conflicts and conversations that men keep to themselves because they don't have the language. Sometimes they don't have the space. Sometimes they don't have the resources to discover or to really ask themselves these questions because it hurts.
Yeah.
A lot of times for men, intimacy hurts, or they were groomed or discipled in dysfunction. And so anytime that they experience a trauma, what happens is there's an amazing book, as I'm giving out resources, amazing book that I love called The Body Keeps the Score. The Body Keeps the Score talks about trauma and how trauma impacts the body. Yeah. When you experience a traumatic experience, it's like your body, your entire person gets stamped at that initial date. It's like back in the day, you know, when our parents would clock in and clock out of work. Mm-hmm. Like it's just like this huge thing, and it stamps that card, and that time is stamped on that card for forever. And so what trauma does, it stamps that card, it stamps us. And especially for men, we get dwarfed in that space if we don't start to deal with that trauma. Yeah. So what happened is, you know, if it happened at 5 years old, you know, if your father walked out, if you experienced rape or molestation or any type of traumatic experience, there's a part of you that is stuck there. So if it happened at 5, there's an emotional stamp that 5 years old that stays there. Now here's the catchy part, the other part. You continue to grow as a man. So physically you grow. You go and you get the house, you get the wife, the significant other, the money, the car, and you think it's enough until you realize there is a 5-year-old you that never got seen, never got heard, never got to heal. And that 5-year-old boy lives in that 30-year-old body. And we think if we get stuff, and a lot of times I realize that most men, like all men, want to be seen and want to be heard. They desire affection, they desire to be seen, and they desire to be heard, and they desire to feel safe. Most of the time, we say men want respect. I hear that, but in my research, I found it's not even about respect. Men want to feel safe.
That's good.
And when a man feels safe, he'll be faithful, he'll be consistent, he'll show up, he'll be present. But when he doesn't feel safe, that's when dishonesty kicks in, secrecy kicks in, and it'll be masked as respect. But it's not really respect, it's safety.
That's good.
Because every little boy needs to feel safe, needs to be seen, needs to be heard, desires intimacy. And I know this is a tangent, I'll go here, but I realize that it is natural for little boys to want affection, and not just from their mothers, not just from their grandmothers or the women in their family. Every little boy wants affection from his father. And oftentimes in our cultures, what we do is instead of fathers giving their kids affection, their sons affection, they meet them with this hardness because they think, well, if I'm soft on him, he'll turn out a different way.
Yeah.
Or if I'm soft on him, he may live an alternative lifestyle. But I realize in parenting, it is natural for my son to jump on my lap and desire to give me a kiss. It is natural for my son to jump on my lap and want a hug. Because what does that do for him? It makes him feel safe.
That's good.
It makes him feel seen. It makes him feel heard. Yeah. When he comes home and he shows me that little coloring, that little picture that he colored that's outside of the lines, it doesn't look good. All he is saying is, Daddy, see me. Daddy, hear me. Daddy, affirm me. And most of us, unfortunately, that are adult males who are from urban communities, we fail to get that. And we fail to get it because our fathers failed to get it. And 9 times out of 10, their fathers failed to get it. And these are trauma responses, or there's something that is called transgenerational trauma. And we can travel this thing all the way back to slavery. And I'm not just talking about black people. I'm talking about brown, Hispanic people as well. To indigenous tribes, to slavery, where the black family or the indigenous family was torn apart. And mothers had to raise their sons by themselves. Fathers were looked at as cattle. And we were taught we could not be affectionate because it was seen as a sign of weakness. You did not have the opportunity sometimes to be affectionate or intimate with your children because you didn't know them. You were treated as cattle, as mating, as mates. So you just went from one woman, one to one another, to have kids to produce for whoever your owner was.
Wow.
And so that transgenerational trauma is still what we see today. Yeah. I want you guys to go back, look at the Willie Lynch letters, look at all of this stuff. Same thing with Hispanic families as well. Now, they still have some of their structures together, but a lot of the things that we're seeing in the Latino community in America, and I know I'm going on a tangent here, but Latinos in America, they always had access to America. It is their native land. The move from Mexico into the Americas was always a part of their heritage, and they always were able to work the land. Why do you think it's in their blood to be able to work the land the way that they do? Because they always have. But in America, when, around the 50s, 60s, 70s, when they started dividing black people up, and indigenous and black people, listen, they created these divisions. They tore the father from the home, all types of stuff. And this transgenerational trauma continues to be carried throughout our communities, not because there's not information about it, but we oftentimes don't have the space,
Yeah.
the freedom, the resources to learn to identify or to deal with them
That's good.
or to engage with them. And so I can't, I may not be able to be intimate with my son because my father wasn't intimate with me. And because I have an unhealthy definition of masculinity and manhood, then my son he gets the short end of the stick. And now my trauma becomes his trauma.
Yep.
And what's worse than not having a father is having a father that's physically there, but emotionally absent.
That's good. That's good. So, brother, you have qualified yourself as someone who can to speak, even if it's just from your own experience. Like you understand, you get it. So, for those who don't know who you are, can you introduce yourself? It's probably a good place to do this.
Oh, man.
Can you introduce like who you are, where you're from, and how you got to this point where you can speak so passionately about this subject?
So my name is Robert H. Marshall Jr. I grew up in this small town called Brunswick, Georgia. And I moved to Chicago when I was about, 17, 18 years old. I moved because I wanted to get away from where I grew up. I'm a survivor of sexual trauma. I've had 9 abusers over my life. I grew up in poverty. I've been urban trafficked as well. And I moved to Chicago because I knew the only way that I was going to survive was to get out
Yeah.
of where I was. And so I threw myself into education because that was my only way, that's the only way I saw out. So I committed myself. I moved. I went to North Park University. And then I also worked on the south side of Chicago with Corey Brooks and Project Hood for years. And so he's a huge mentor of mine. He taught me about what it really means to be a servant, to really serve the community. I always was in church, so I'm a church boy as well. But there was this weird thing with me because of the trauma in my life. I grew up in an environment, I grew up in a holiness church. So that's what we call it, the holiness church.
Yeah.
Strict. I didn't own a pair of jeans until I was in college. I didn't wear shorts. You can go back in my history books and you can see I wore suits to school every day.
Wow.
And so when all that stuff started breaking, I realized that there was this strange environment that I grew up in where there was a highlight on spirituality, sensuality, and sexuality at the same time. And it was like this 3-stranded cord that I grew up in. And I didn't realize that it was a problem until I got older, until I got married. And so what qualifies me to do this work now, after I've studied at a number of schools, I have a number of degrees in different things, and what qualifies me to have these conversations is, number one, my pain, my lived experiences.
That's good.
2, my commitment and my research to helping boys and men in underrepresented communities. I've worked at colleges, I've worked at universities, I've studied, I've sat with gurus, I read all the time. I've written a number of books, workbooks. I've lectured at God knows how many schools. I travel. So this is the work that I do full time. I do it all the time. And I got to this place because I realized that my children deserved the healed version of me. Mm-hmm. That I needed to commit myself to becoming the best version of myself for my children and for my wife. I've been married now for 10 years, and I do the work that I do because it's my wife that pushes me. When I started talking about sexual trauma, before I started talking about it, I asked my wife, I'm like, look, now I was honest with her about my life prior. And I looked at her, I said, listen, I don't want people to look at you crazy. Because, you know, my wife is Puerto Rican, Mexican, and Irish. So, you know, I'm the first black person in their family. So I don't want them looking at me like, yo, who is this dude?
Yeah, I get that.
And she looked at me. She said, how can you not do this? How can you not tell your story? How can you not help them? And so from that moment to this moment, she's my biggest fan. She's my biggest cheerleader. When I'm hurt, she helps heal. When I'm puffed up in pride, she helps expose it. When I'm bogus, she calls me out. But when I'm on, she celebrates.
That's good.
And so that's what qualifies me to do this work. I have an organization called I Am Man that focuses on helping boys and men overcome adverse childhood and traumatic life experiences.
That's good. That's good, man. So, it's safe to say you've been in the barbershop a couple of times.
Yeah, man. I probably need a haircut right now, but I'm right in that in-between phase.
I'm way past, so don't even.
I'm in that in-between phase.
Have you ever, based upon your experience, your educational background, and what you've learned, have you ever experienced or seen in a barbershop something personal going on with that barber or that hairstylist that is affecting the way they're doing business?
Heck yes. Heck yes. Matter of fact, my barber right now, I love him to life. But I have a barber right now who, you know, he knows some of the work that I do. And every time I go and I sit in his shop, he starts talking about the stuff that's going on in his life. Now, typically, it's the other way around. We're talking to our barbers about our problems, our conflict. But every time I go, he's talking about what's going on in his life, what's wrong in his life. And I said, hey, man, why don't you go, you know, see a therapist? Why don't you go get some help? And the first thing he says is, nah, I'm good. I'm cool.
Yeah.
I don't need that. What can a therapist tell me? I'm going to go spend my money to go see this white therapist. These are his words. I'm gonna go to this white man to go tell me what's wrong with me. He ain't lived my life. He don't know what's going on with me. He hasn't walked in my shoes. And he says all the time, he's like, you know, what I'm gonna do, he says, I'm just gonna smoke weed. I'm gonna sit with my homies. I'm gonna get a 40 and we're gonna talk and it's gonna be it.
Yeah.
And he said, I'm gonna leave it there. I'll trust. But the bigger thing is for him, he doesn't trust anybody with his secrets, with his stuff.
Yeah.
And I've seen it multiple times. I see it a lot of times. And it's heartbreaking, it's heart-wrenching, but I'm committed to continue. I go back to him not because he's the best barber that I've ever had, but I'm committed to walking with him on this journey.
That's good.
And if that means I'm just showing up and letting him cut my hair and talk, I'll be that safe space for him.
That's good.
Yeah, man. So I see it all the time.
That's good.
He's very. I notice he gets very confrontational with people, feeling like he always has to fight, always has to defend himself,
That happens a lot.
always has to prove that he's right or that. And I know at the root of that, he's hurting, he's broken, and that is a trauma response.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes me think about. I was never that barber. I was never confrontational. I'm like, the words that you've heard me share since we've been here, this is probably the most that I've talked.
Wow.
This is probably the most that I'll talk all week. Like, I'm just, it's just, I'm quiet, laid back, got the music going. I like to do my work, and I like to let my customer, my clients, if they want to talk, I'll engage. But if not, they can just, this is like a cheap vacation.
Yeah.
Like, I want them to come in and just escape for a moment. But hearing you talk about, like, you're a barber, and although we're different, there's so many similarities. I may not be confrontational in the way trying to prove something, but I did work my tail off to get where I'm at, to win the trophies, to get my reputation, because my identity was in what I did. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to prove my worth in how well I can cut, how well I can style. And I'm only able to identify that now as I'm older, but I realized that I started my business off the wrong way. I started my business off trying to prove my value and my worth by me being able to create something that someone else said, "Oh, this is good," and it put me in a place where I'm always chasing someone else's approval.
Yeah.
So things that I did in business or not did in business was all based upon how someone else felt.
Yeah.
And I'm coming to realize, I had a conversation with my mom just last week. I'm 40 years old, and I've never really truly made my own decisions.
Yeah.
But it was either based upon, in work, it was based upon whether customers and stuff were like it. I got married really young. I've always made decisions with my wife. I always made decisions based upon my children and what their needs were. I never made like my own decisions about what I think. Maybe like small stuff.
Get you. I get it. Yeah.
Never made a significant decision without having to consider someone else. Not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I always realized that what I want to do is solely based upon what somebody else thinks or what they feel. But it's been since I've been older, maybe mid-30s, that I've dedicated. Matter of fact, put a little more time. When I came here to the Suites, January of 2016, and I started buying cameras. I brought cameras so that I can record myself and watch myself work.
Yeah.
So I can watch, oh man, I wasted time when I was doing this, or I could have did that line better, or I can approach this. Oh, I did good there. Like I study myself.
That's good.
Like I watch what I do, and then what I started discovering was after time, it was like, you know what? It was always this battle, like my work life and my spiritual life, like, and I believe it's Corinthians, 1 Corinthians 10, whatever you eat, whatever you drink, whatever you do all things to the glory of God. I'm like, I want to work in a way that pleases God. So it don't have to be in church. It don't have to be what I do if when I'm in the four walls of the church. I want it to be the way I shampoo somebody's hair. I want to do it unto the glory of God. The way that I serve them in the chair. The way when they come into the atmosphere, I may not be playing gospel music, but I wanted to make sure that they feel relaxed and taken care of. And like I want to do all things so that my work Monday through Saturday is more of the ministry, and I go to church on Sunday to get rejuvenated and build up to get back to it. Yeah. So it's important to me that if I'm going to do this podcast, when we record stuff, however long it may be, I want it to be that I'm also serving people. So I've dedicated the BarberSHED solely to help barbers navigate through and out of burnout. Yeah. Because burnout is inevitable. If you don't know how to deal with issues and stress within business, you're gonna get burnt out.
Life.
Yeah. Most of barber programs are built towards a better fade, a better style, which may make you better technically, but that doesn't necessarily make you better behind the chair. When I got my first mentor, the guy from Georgia that I was telling you about, it woke up something in me where I'm always seeking mentorship from different places. Yeah. And that's kind of my thing. I think you need to always have mentors. I also have anti-mentors too. Yeah. I have people around me specifically that they remind me of exactly what I don't want to be. Yeah.
That's wisdom. I hear that.
And the barbers that tend to gravitate towards what I do, I feel like what I do would never be like, I'll never be that super popular barber online with numbers and that's never been my thing either.
We don't know that yet. We don't know that yet.
It could be.
It could be, right?
But the business behind the chair, once I did my numbers, I was like, oh, I only need 1,000 people. Yeah. I only need 1,000 people that are within a 25-mile radius of here, and I'm good. And I have the data
Yeah.
Like, you don't need
I
a
respect
bunch of
that.
followers.
I respect that.
But on this type of platform, I don't know. This is my first time doing this, right?
Yeah. And you're doing it well. You're doing it well, man.
And this is a fear because I may not be doing it now, but I have a really bad stutter that's always held me back from years from just speaking. And I guess because of what we're talking about now, I do find myself, I'm safe right now. I feel good, right? So I'm not stumbling like how I normally would.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I know this is your show, but you said something that I value. You said you feel safe. What does that mean? What does that feel like?
I feel strong. I feel powerful. I feel like even if it's just one person that this conversation helps and leads them, I feel like, man, this was worth it, right? But for me personally, I feel like after meeting you, I'm gonna grow and be better. That's how I feel. Even if we never have a conversation after this, meeting you, hearing you, seeing you in person, connecting the face, your voice to the words that I read in your book, I feel better because it's like if he can have that type of strength to be transparent, if he can have that type of courage to be bold in your delivery, what does a little stutter do for me? Come on. Who cares? Who cares? And the person that turns this off because he's like, man, dude, stutter. He wasn't for me.
Now, can I point out something? You talk about your stutter. I haven't heard you stutter one time. I haven't heard you stutter one time. And so your focus is on something that we don't even see. And that's what trauma does. It makes you see stuff that other people don't see.
Yeah.
It makes you harp on something that's insignificant, and it lies to you to inhibit you from becoming all you were created to be. If you would not have told me you had a stutter, I would have never known. My first interaction with you is you're articulate, you're confident, you're excellent, like you're a professional. That's all I got. I would have never known. But because of your shortcoming and the trauma and the feelings attached with that, now that's brought into the conversation. When if you were just focused on doing and sticking to the assignment and walking in what was put on you, in you by the divine, by God himself, you'd be walking, and you're still walking in power and victory, excellence, and you're doing it in class and in style.
That's good, brother. Like I don't know, you said like this is my. I haven't even gotten to the place where I'm saying, oh, this is my show. This like I got a couple of cameras,
Man, own it.
and it's like, you know, I call it like I'm discovering my voice. I'm discovering who I am in this, and I realized that the one thing that I always shy away from is talking. I rather do work. My default is let me do work.
So
Speaking right now, this is like, but it's something about how you even just started talking the conversation that like I get, like I feel like I said, I feel strong. Like I feel like, yeah, I can talk confidently because I don't have to make up anything to. I feel like you're not looking for credentials. You're not looking to see like what school I went to, what my background is, who my pastor is. Like it's just like I feel like you just value me because I'm an image bearer.
yeah, can I say this?
Yeah.
Oftentimes, we as men live in an internal penis swinging contest. Where we're that 14-year-old boy, 13-year-old boy in the locker room, looking at what everybody else has, silently comparing ourselves, not for pleasure's sake, but because we're comparing ourselves to everybody else because we want to see if we're enough. And what I want you and what I want every man to know, that you are enough. And if you are listening, if I can do this, can you just
Yeah.
close your eyes for a minute and just say and tell yourself, I am enough.
Yeah, I am definitely enough.
I'm enough without the house. I'm enough without the cars. I'm enough without the sexual conquest. I'm enough if another client does not come in my path. I'm enough if I meet my quotas. If I don't, I'm enough. Why? I'm enough because I'm his. I belong to him. And my worth is not determined by what I do. It's determined by who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And when a man does not know who he is, he will determine by his worth by what he does and what he has. I can prove it. What is the first thing when you meet somebody new that you ask? Hey, what do you do? And you know what happens is we start comparing ourselves to that man at that moment, measuring ourselves against him. But if a man I ask this question all the time, if you define yourself by what you do and what you have, what happens when you no longer can do it? What happens when you no longer have it?
Yeah.
Most men, they enter into something called a midlife crisis because their testosterone levels are going down. They're not as strong as they used to be. They're not as fast as they used to be. And so they wind up in this place where they don't know what to do. Masculine manhood is determined by a man's internal convictions and conversations that are guided by God and who he says you are.
Yeah.
Living from a place of sonship, where even though my natural father may not have been there, God has always been there. He says, I'm committed to the widow and the orphan.
Mm-hmm.
And most of us have been orphaned.
Mm-hmm.
And though there have been broken places in your life, the Bible says, as long as we are in this world, our days will be full of trouble. But here's the promise, that I will never leave you, neither will I forsake you. The fact that you are still here, the fact that you are still in your right mind, the fact that you still have the ability to do and to be is a sign of God's faithfulness.
Yeah.
But it's also a sign that it's not too late to be who you should have been.
That's good.
But it starts with knowing that in and within myself, I'm enough. Yeah, I wrote an entire book. It's called What Every Man Needs to Know. And it's amazing. It's a piece of work that I believe will empower any man
That's
and
good.
every man
That's
to
good.
be well.
What I like is that in my notes. So I'm with BarberSHED, along with doing this. I have like little mini courses and stuff. Like I have a whole program that I can walk. If you're in a service-based business where you provide a service of barber, hairstyles, whatever it is, and you got clients and you're trying to build
Yeah.
based on all the mistakes that I've made over the past 25 years, I can get nearly anywhere to any reasonable goal. As long as it's within reason,
Yeah.
you can get to any goal. And one of the mini courses that I've been working on and that I've been going back and forth with is called Good Enough Now.
Wow.
Because it's all built around, like, you don't need to go learn anything else. Everything you have, you already have it. You already. Sometimes I believe that us as barbers and hairstylists, we, like you said earlier, we're always comparing ourselves. So the success of our business behind the chair, the success that we have with our clients is always based upon what we see someone else is doing, and we let someone else measure our success. What I'm interested in is your perspective on this.
Okay.
So I'm actually a licensed cosmetologist
Okay.
that practices barbering. As a cosmetologist, when I renew my license, I have to do hours, so maybe 2 hours. I forget exactly how long of it is. It's training and like spotting domestic violence.
Yeah.
When I was sitting in the last class, I always thought about the men who come sit in the chair, and I can see. Yeah, I got a couple of guys. I see scars and stuff. Some of those scars is passion scratches.
Right. I got you.
Some of them is you got coat scratches.
Right. I got you. Yeah. Yeah.
But because of just how I think, my love for movies and film, and I get into that, like, I was sitting think I get lost in these thoughts, like, what about the scars that you can't see?
Yeah. Yeah.
What about those scars? And then with the pandemic happening and how my colleagues, my friends, not everybody responded the same way. Not everybody was able to make a comeback. I have friends that had to completely shut down, and I broke them down mentally, and how they dealt with clients coming back, the aggressiveness, and all different types of stuff. He had some that were more like me, that was like much needed vacation.
Yeah.
Then he had some that was panicking to the point of like panic attacks. You have some that went out and got other jobs. Have stylists that completely had to close down their business, lost everything.
Mm-hmm.
Since we've been back and we get into this place of normal, I realized that many of my friends aren't the same.
Right.
Haven't fully recovered from that. Now, I know you deal a lot with sexual trauma, but I've heard you say, like you've mentioned it like a couple times here, like you have to know trauma of any kind.
Yeah.
You don't have to be the same. What is some practical things that we could do if it's just examining ourselves? What are some practical things that we can do to just start the process of just getting the help that we may need to better service the people that sit in our chair?
So I would say this. I'll start here. The first thing would be sit down in a chair, turn off your phone, close your eyes. Some of y'all may go to sleep, and that's cool if you do. Listen to yourself. Listen.
That sounds scary, though.
Oh, it is. I remember when I did it the first time, I closed my eyes and I heard somebody scream, "Help me." Yeah. Sometimes when we find our worth in what we do, we continue, it's like a drug. We continue to do it. Not because we want, and it's the same thing with providing service, whether that's doing a haircut or doing somebody's hair, but it's the same thing with sex too, where everything becomes performance oriented. So, and I'll go here because this is what I do. You'll be having sex with an individual and you're doing all these tricks and flips, not for them, but for you. You're looking for them to look back at you and say, "You did a good job."
That's good.
It's the same thing with hair. It's the same thing with whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
When you sit with yourself, you hear the truth. I have this saying to all the people that I mentor, that I counsel, that I coach. You can lie to everybody else, but to thine own self be true. So the first thing I would say is sit down and just be silent. And it might be scary. You're going to want to run. You're going to want to hide. But listen to yourself. What is the person inside of you saying? That person that does not that you knew before you had the skill, before you had the talent, before you had the gift. What is that person saying? And after you get finished being scared, write it down. Listen, and be honest. Let the tears fall. Let all the stuff happen because you cannot lie to you. You're not going to, it's like looking in an internal mirror. So start there. Hear what the issues are. Hear what the problems are. And then when you wake up, when you come to yourself, I would say pray, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because this requires God's help.
Yeah.
You didn't get yourself in this stuff by yourself. And here's the beautiful thing about faith. You don't have to get out of it by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
The Bible says, one of my favorite scriptures says that he is a very present help in the time of trouble. Like in my trouble, he's present.
Yeah.
Like, and then another scripture for me, and I don't mean to preach here, but for what helps me on my journey as a man, he says, in your weaknesses, my strength is made perfect. I found out that the sum total of my masculinity and my manhood is not hung up on my strength. It's determined by my weaknesses. And me saying to myself and saying to God, God, I don't have the strength to do this. I don't have the skill to do it. I don't have the money to do it. I'm scared. I'm afraid. And I know we can't say this to a lot of people outside because everybody's looking for us to be the protector, to be the provider. But with God, I can be complete and 100% because he already knows.
Yeah.
So going to that and saying, you know what, God, I need help.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I would say, now do your research. We live in a time of Google. Like you can do research. There's no excuse. You can pick up a phone and you can do some research.
Mm-hmm.
I'll always say, go get professional help. But before doing that, there's YouTube videos. There's Instagram accounts. There's so much. Not get a book. You can Google or search anything on Amazon, Google, or whatever, or social media for whatever you are contending with. After you get some information, come up with a plan, a healing plan. All right, this is the issue. This is how I feel about this. This is how I feel. This is what I came up out of my heart, out of my spirit, out of my mind. All right, let's deal with this. And I would say and this is where I believe as a pastor too, this is where church comes in, where you have a community of people who you are meeting with on a consistent basis, where you can get the strength and the energy that you need to continue on your own healing journey. That is what church is for. Mm-hmm. It's not for perfect people. It's for people who are on a journey to become better.
Yeah.
And so I would say, getting in the faith community or getting around people and your boys or your girlfriends who are going to hold you accountable to becoming the best version of you. And you being committed to becoming the best version of you at any cost.
That's good.
So that means it's going to cost me some money. It's going to cost some time. And I don't even want to say cost. It's an investment.
Yeah.
Let me switch that around. That means I'm going to have to invest in time. I have to invest my time. I got to invest my resources. I got to invest my energy so that I can get a harvest. I can get a harvest and I can get the fruit. I'll be able to enjoy the fruits that from the seeds that I planted. And all the seeds are not going to come up at the same time. Some seeds come up faster than others. Some seeds, they take longer. But there's a principle. Some water, some plant, some water, but it's always God who's going to bring the increase. And sometimes when we start our healing journey and we're planting seeds and we're watering, we want to see, all right, I want to see my harvest right now. I want to see change right now. I want to see the fruit. I want my clientele to, nah. You didn't get into this in a moment, and you're not going to get out of it in a moment. That's why you have to be committed to the healing journey and know that every step of the way, God is going to ensure that you will be well. For I have never seen the righteous forsaken, and for his seed begging for bread.
Yeah.
Trusting that in the process that God got you and that you won't have to beg for bread.
Mm-hmm.
If he took care of the birds, if he takes care of the grass, how much more will he take care of you? Take care of you. Here's the thing is, we often try to help him take care of us and determine how he should take care of us instead of trusting that he knows how to take care of us.
Play devil's advocate for that barber. That's like, I hear what you're saying, brother, but I got some issues with the book and how people have gone and wrote their own stuff in the scripture, and we got stuck. We ain't even serving our original God from the land we was taken from. So I have, I hear what you're saying. I know that's a good thing, but we all have our different walks.
And so here's the thing. And I don't want to get theological and technical. I could, but that's not the purpose of this. Because once again, healing is the journey. Wholeness is the destination.
Let's go.
My job is not to tell you what wholeness looks like.
That's good.
My job is not to tell you what your healing journey looks like. My job is to step with you every step of the way. It is not my job to judge. It's my job to love. It's my job to love and allow God to do the convicting, to allow God to do that part.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not here to judge. I'm here to love.
Right.
So wherever you are on your journey, I'm gonna rock with you on your journey.
Yeah.
Now, and one thing I decided, and I know I'm gonna get in trouble for this. One thing that I've decided not to do is to argue with people about where they are in their faith journeys. Because these are arguments that have been being had for thousands of years. Mm-hmm. And a lot of us waste our time and our energy trying to prove something right or prove that we're right. When really, there are people dying on these streets. And I've just determined that I'm going to be one that's going to love the hell out of people. The Bible says this: we will be known, they will be known by their love, not their degrees, not to the arguments. Now, don't get twisted. I can argue with the best of them. But the greater principle for me in this space is to love. Now, mind you, there is misconceptions. I will say this about Jesus and Christianity being a white man's religion. There's this misunderstanding and this, I would even call it demonic, untruthful understanding of that Christianity started in America and it was a white man's religion. No, brother. Yeah. No, sister. Christianity was back in Africa way before. Christopher Columbus, slavery, any of that stuff. Matter of fact, if you go look some of the most ancient biblical texts, they started in, it was Ethiopia. It was in Africa. Mm-hmm. Mind you, the entire context of the Bible is not America. Yes. It is the continent of Africa and Asia. Mm-hmm. So last time I checked, and I know I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, Jesus was not a white man. Jesus was a black man, number one, who was of African descent, Jewish African descent. Mm-hmm. And Even as scripture defines him, his hair is like wool, his skin is like bronze. That doesn't sound like a white Jesus to me. Jesus and faith in Christianity is not a white man's religion. Now, here's the thing about this, the truth. Now, I could get lost in that, but I'll say that piece. But what is it about today? The Bible says that those that worship God must worship him in spirit and in truth. Number one, God is a spirit. So I'm not getting caught up in the physiological aspect of what Jesus physically looked like. But I can prove that Christianity and the Christian faith was never a white man's religion. That it started in Ethiopia and Africa, where the people that lived there looked like you and me. And research and scientists have proven that Africa is the starting place of the world. So I'll put that. But for now, Jesus and Christianity is not about Jew, Gentile, Greek, race. That's not what this is about. Jesus comes as a controversial figure because his mission on the earth was to redeem humanity back to the Father. It was a rescue mission. Because God loved humanity so much that he was willing to sacrifice for people that would not sacrifice for him.
Yeah.
The Bible is a love letter about a creator who wants to be in an intimate relationship with his children. And he continues to reach throughout the precipice of time to extend love, grace, mercy, forgiveness, time after time after time again. Why? Because he loves us. And it's about him wanting to be in an intimate relationship. Jesus comes not to argue black and white, but he comes to redeem humanity back to the Father. And here's the thing about Jesus. Jesus bucked against systems and structures that prohibited the people of God from being well. The Sadducees, the Pharisees, the religious times of the day, they were political parties that played with the freedom of the Jews. And Jesus came to do away with that. Jesus came, and let me say that in a better way. Jesus came to show us a better way. He said, I didn't come to do away with the law, but I came to fulfill it. And that was so that we could have a relationship with God the Father, regardless of our race, our ethnicity, our gender. Jesus came to restore humanity back to the Father.
That's good.
So y'all can argue. That's not what I'm here to do.
Yeah. And the reason why it's even relevant to you bring it up.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. Why it's relevant.
For like the person, is because it's like even the person that's rejecting Christianity, they want their religion in itself is describing that you're searching for a way to get to this place of euphoria or whatever.
Oh,
like you're searching,
man.
like, and the relevance of a creator is to let you know that you don't have to do this journey of wholeness by yourself.
Now, here's the other part. Now, most people don't know this about me, and I don't think I've ever said this publicly. I went to school at the University of Chester in the United Kingdom, and my professors were atheists. I studied theology. Professors were straight up atheists. And I remember taking a world religions class, and the argument basically was that all religion is the same, just different names. That was the argument. And it got to a point where I almost totally walked away from God. And then I met this young lady who was beautiful. And at that time, she was not of Christian faith, but she was Muslim. And I said, and with her, I was like, yo, she's gorgeous. And I was like, man, I see why these women are covered up. They're gorgeous. And I almost walked away from Christian Faith, clubbing, partying, drinking, the whole shebang. And then I realized, like, I was like, you know what? The problem that the world has with Jesus uniquely, because we are the only faith that says, I am the way. I am the truth.
Yeah.
I am the life.
Yeah.
If any man goes to the Father except by me is a thief and a robber. Now, here's the thing. What is not said in their text is that people have created other ways to try to get to God.
Yep.
And it didn't say that you wouldn't get close or get near. He says, but I am the way. It's like a back door. You can go, like, for instance, you can come to my house, and if you come through the back door, you may get in the door. But are you there? Do you have the authority, the right to be there? The answer is no. You're a thief. You're a robber. So now I have the authority to come to you and say, hey, get out of my house. So Jesus says, listen, I am the way. I am the truth. I am the life. Try me. Come this way. You don't have to go through the back door. But the thing that made me recommit my life to God was not my theology, not what people said. It was my experience with God when I was walking away. And if anybody had the right to walk away from Christianity, where my abusers were pastors and leaders, right? Realizing that Jesus came and wrapped himself in flesh to experience everything that I had experienced in order to redeem me back, and to the Father, realizing that even on my good day would never be enough. So every other religion is about me getting to God, me doing something, praying or being or chanting to get to him.
Yeah.
When Christianity and faith says, he knew I couldn't get to him. So he came to me. So it's not about me being in a place of enlightenment. It's not me reaching for him or reaching for something. It's about him coming to get me. Like any good father would, that sees his children hurting and broken.
That's good.
He came to me, and he continues to come to me.
That's good.
To come rescue me.
That's good. Brother, I feel like listening to you, it's safe to say that I have not even scratched the surface of what you're able to offer people.
Wow.
And I feel like I could talk to you a lot longer. Because I feel like when I say something, you kind of like pick up like just what I'm doing a little bit, or even if you don't, intuitively you like are like great. It's great talking to you. So let me recap just a little bit. You say the first thing we should do is sit down somewhere.
That's what this is my downfall. So I have ADHD too. So like I'll go on a tangent. But so the first thing is to sit with yourself.
Yep.
Listen to yourself. Try to figure out where you are. Be honest. Write it down. Get a journal. Get your phone. Get something where you can journal what you hear, what you feel. The third thing is to do some research.
Yeah.
Research what you're feeling, what you're seeing. What is it called? Put name to it. Do some research. Watch some YouTube videos, social media videos, so that you can develop and understand the language for it.
That's good.
Then the fourth thing would be go and try to get professional help. Get professional help. Go if you can afford it. Go see a therapist. Go to, I would say, start at psychologytoday.com. It's a resource of therapists, counselors, professionals, where you can go. Prices are all different. Some of them accept Medicaid, some of them accept insurance, some of them they're on the sliding scale. So you can find somebody and you can look specifically if you're looking for a male, a female, black, white, or whatever your preference is. And then I would say 5, plug into a faith community where you can get the strength and the support and the resource that comes with being a part of a faith community so that you can begin the journey to wholeness.
Yeah.
And then also you can book me. You can book me. You can go to my website. You can go to roberthmarshall.com and I will be glad to help you walk and journey with you to wholeness.
That's good. I'm going to make sure that all the link and
Listen,
it's going to be there.
I'll get on a tangent. Just bring me back.
And just real quick, because I've been doing this a long time, and I've worked around a lot of barbers, a lot of hairstylists. I'm not against you.
Yeah.
I hear what y'all saying. Inside the soul. Just stop doing this. I hear what you're saying. And it's good that y'all doing it. I don't think that's my situation. I don't think that I need to go see somebody or talk to somebody. I'm kind of doing my own thing, and I read some stuff here and there. I don't think I have any trauma responses. I don't think that I'm going through anything. And if I was, I would have noticed it.
So here's the thing about that. Oftentimes, when we are sick, we don't know we're sick. When we have self-sabotaging behaviors, we don't know it. So if you have a significant other in your life, or go to the people that you trust, if you have, and ask them. Say, you know what? I'm going to give y'all full permission to say whatever y'all want to say. But ask them about what they think about you. Ask them do you have any behaviors that they think that are, rude, mean, self-sabotaging. And listen, I'm talking about let them be 100 without you defending, without you judging, without you snapping back at them, right? Let them talk. Listen to what they have to say. I guarantee you, somebody is going to say something. So I would say start there. And even if you don't feel it, listen, we're all on a journey. If you don't think you've been through anything or this is not for you, cool. Put it in your back pocket.
Yeah.
Listen, you just got the information. That's where you are on your journey, and that's okay. But no, if and when you need me or us or this, you know where to find us.
Yeah.
Or pass it on to somebody else. But yeah, that's what I would say to that.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Brother, I appreciate you coming.
Thank you for having me, man.
I appreciate you taking your time out of your day. I'm afraid somebody will just skip over this one and want to get to the haircut part. But for the one that is deciding to listen, that made it this far in the video, I appreciate you listening this far in the video. I want you all to know that the way you can truly grow a sustainable business that you're proud of, that you can leave behind, it's not going to be with a better haircut. It's not going to be with a new clipper. It's going to be with learning how to better service the person that's in the chair. And we ain't even gotten to the part where we just deal with the conversations with the clients that we...
Bro, we got to come back.
Yeah.
I would gladly come back.
I would love that.
I'd gladly come back.
But I think for us to even deal with the people that's in the chair, let's do some self-examination. And that's why I wanted to just see what your thoughts were, see where your head was. I enjoyed your book. I'm going to plug the book, Echo.
It's a rough one. But
It's definitely rough. I had to stop a couple of times in between clients. One client was like, his words, "What the hell are you listening to?" because I'm wrestling through like, because I'm listening to an audible, I can hear the title like, okay,
Yeah.
this is the person that, okay, this is their person. I have to get like the physical copy so I can make sure that I'm connecting the name with the
Yeah.
story. But some of those stories they was rough, and I realized that a lot of us have similar stories, and even if it's not similar, like those things, like you said, those stamps, those things that happen in our life that we grew up with. There's a reason why you haven't gone up on your prices yet.
Yeah.
There's a reason why you went up on your prices prematurely.
Yeah.
There's no way you should be charging $100. You just charging because you saw somebody else charging it. It doesn't make any practical sense. It has to make sense according to your business that you're designing. There's a reason why some of my friends won't sit down and write a value proposition statement. And I'm in my training program that I help borrow, I'm giving you the roadmap that I've tested over and over and over with myself. And you want to skip over the stuff that you seem insignificant. There's a reason why you're doing that. And I just wanted to start a conversation, and I just wanted to bring some awareness that if we do some work on ourselves internally,
That's the part.
I believe that we can better, if nothing else, we probably would cut hair better.
You know what? Or feel better doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Are you cutting hair angry? Are you cutting hair sad and depressed? I see some barbers who's cutting hair and drinking at the same time. Because and all that you do, how you show up in the world, impacts how you do what you do.
Yeah.
And even though the client may not say anything to you, they feel it. They see it.
Yeah.
They know it. How do you talk? How do you deal with people? And it's either pushing clients towards you or driving clients away from you, regardless of your skill, regardless of your ability. If you don't deal with you, you will bleed on everybody. And how many of your clients have you bled on because you have not done the internal work to help you? Maybe that's what's stunting your business, is the fact that you have not started to deal with the things that have been dealing with you. And it spills over in how you talk to your clients, your business structure, how integral you are with business. Woo! Man, my mentor, she was a millionaire before she passed us a couple months ago. Her name is Dr. Giselle Lindley, Ray Lindley. And she would say to me all the time, Robert, your misery will be your ministry, and your misery will make you millions. But if you don't deal with your trauma, your misery will imprison you, and it will inhibit you from making you millions. Meaning that a lot of time, and especially in our spaces, one thing she could not stand was the spirit of poverty. You can have gifts, you can have talents, you could be the coldest. But if you operate in the spirit of poverty, everything you touch will not prosper. It'll be limited.
That's good.
It will be limited. And she would talk about the spirit of poverty, not like you can have money and still operate in the spirit of poverty.
Yeah.
Right? It's a way of life. It's for some people, it's an energy, it's a vibe. Like if you are poor in spirit and you are bankrupt in your character and your integrity, you're always looking for what's in it for you. You're operating, she would say bootleggish. You don't have the proper systems and structures. You're not on time, or you're not integral with the work you do. You take shortcuts. You're looking for the shorter way. You're always in it for me, I. You're in a service-based industry, in it for you and not for the client. Right? That all impacts your company. It all impacts your business.
Yeah.
And the root of that is the spirit of poverty. And it's governed by fear. Fear. When you've lived scraping the bottom, you're always looking for what's in it for me. You're always take, me. And when you're a barber, when you're a beautician, it's a service industry. You're giving. And here's the problem. How can you give when you're operating at a deficit? How can you give when you're bankrupt in your spirit and your heart? Your cup is empty and you're pouring out of an empty cup. You're cutting hair, but you are like dead man's bones inside. Eventually, burnout happens. Eventually, the client stops coming because what your energy, you transfer it to that hair, to that head, whatever the service is. Your attitude, your disposition, how you treat them. We gotta kill impoverished mindsets that hinder us from living in abundance. Yeah.
Bro.
I could talk to you forever. I got to get out of here.
Yeah. I'm sorry to hold you, brother.
No, man.
Thank you. Thank you again, brother. I appreciate you. Can you give us just one more time the website and how people can get?
Yeah, for sure. So you can reach out to me on any of my social media accounts. It's Robert H. Marshall Jr. And you can also go to my website, roberthmarshall.com. Don't forget the H. It's roberthmarshall.com. You can visit IamManInc.org for our company, our resources, and stuff that we have, of resources we have to help men, organizations, companies journey to wholeness.
Thank you. Thank you, brother.
Thank you for having me, man. I'm excited about this.
Thank you, man.
Mama, I made it. We here.
Welcome to the shed.
Thanks, man.